slow to get up after a collision underneath the basket. Here's what happened.
Oh, that is a major collision for the two of them. They both knock heads.
It was supposed to be Caitlin Clark's night. Nike logos draped across the arena, fans lined up for selfies, the whole celebration built around the biggest star in women's basketball. But then the game tipped off, and the story flipped. Instead of Clark, it was Lexie Hull, blooded, bruised, and diving headfirst into chaos, who set the tone for what became one of the most shocking wins of the season.
First home game, got a dub, let's get it.
Big dub. Let's go.
Keep it dub, Woo, dubs.
The Fever walked in short-handed, written off before the first whistle, and walked out with a statement so loud it shook the playoff race. How did a team missing half its guards, missing its superstar, completely dominate Seattle? And what did Aliyah Boston say after the game that has fans convinced this team just found a brand new identity? Before the ball was even tossed, the odds were stacked against Indiana. Caitlin Clark was still sidelined with that nagging groin injury, and she wasn't alone. Sophie Cunningham, done for the year. Ori McDonald, out. Sydney Colson, out. Chloe BBY, playing hurt.
On her hands to the rim, getting into defenders, playing low to high instead of high to low. When she plays like that, there's nobody that can stop her. And, she set the tone for us, really on both ends. She had the NECA assignment as well and set the tone for us on both ends.
By the time the lineups were announced, half of the Fever's backcourt was missing in action. That left a razor-thin rotation, starters forced into heavy minutes, and a bench that had to stretch beyond its limits. And the timing couldn't have been worse. Indiana had just dropped 4 of their last 5 games, clinging to the very edge of the playoff picture. The matchup with Seattle wasn't just another game, it was a battle for survival. Seattle came in 1 spot ahead in the standings. 1 win separating the two teams. Every possession mattered, every rebound felt like a playoff play. And as the players warmed up under the shadow of Clark's Nike banners, the vibe inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse was strange.
The string of games, beginning of a string of games against the teams you're competing for a playoff spot against. Did this game feel more important in that regard? And I guess how big was it to get a win in this one?
Yeah, going into this game, we talked about that this was going to be a big game for us, considering the standings where Seattle was. But, going into the West Coast trip, right now we're just going to be focused on LA. That's kind of been our motto this entire season, is just focus on the game ahead of you, be where your feet are. And so starting tomorrow, we're going to be looking at LA. But this next string of games definitely important for us, but we got to take.
She's a connector. She brings people together. And, I think for us to be a part of that, and whether it's, as simple as being able to celebrate all of these things with her, or, as much as walking out into the arena and seeing the whiteout on the chairs out there, it's really cool. And it's really special I'm talking about it right now, and just feeling the intense gratitude for me personally, being in women's basketball, to be able to be a part of this moment and to celebrate.
A celebration for a superstar who wasn't even playing, and a roster left scrambling to prove they could stand on their own. Most expected the Fever to fold under the pressure. Instead, what followed was something entirely different. The night wasn't supposed to belong to anyone else. Nike had turned Gainbridge Fieldhouse into a Caitlin Clark showcase, her new logo splashed across railings, fans in matching promo shirts, cameras ready to capture every angle of her brand. The irony: Clark wasn't in uniform. She was courtside in warm-ups, smiling and cheering, but unable to play a single minute. And that changed everything. Without her three-point range to stretch defenses, without her ability to control tempo and draw double teams, Indiana's offense looked stripped down. Add in the absence of several veteran guards, and the playbook was reduced to its simplest form: attack inside, rebound everything, and fight for every possession. Meanwhile, Seattle walked in with their veteran core, smelling blood. A short-handed Fever team in the middle of a playoff race? It looked like the perfect setup for the Storm to steal momentum. Most people in the arena expected the night to end as a celebration of Clark off the court, not her team on it. But then came the collision that flipped the script. Midway through the first quarter, it happened.
Getting back on the bench, was everybody just kind of staring at your forehead directly?
I knew yeah. Everyone's like, you look beautiful. I'm like, I know I look insane, but it honestly looks better now than it did when it first happened. So hopefully this goes down quick.
Did you glance up at the video board to see it? Did you get a look at it?
No, I could see it looking out. I could see it just from my own eyes. So I didn't need to look anywhere. I knew it was going to be big.
No way. So it's in your peripheral vision?
Yes. It was literally sticking out. I mean, it's still big right here, but it was bigger and I could see it. So they brought it down a little. Your
teammates, your coach, the GM, everybody's just kind of talking about your toughness, I guess. So there's not really a good way to ask that question, but if you could just talk to me about that toughness and where that comes from.
I mean, if I can play, if I feel like I can play, whether or not I look good or not isn't the problem. So, I think for me, it's just the team is the most important thing, getting wins the most important thing, and if I can contribute in any way I can, that's what I'm going to do. So if it's playing a little injured, playing a little hurt, that is what it is.
Awesome.
Lexie Hull and Gabby Williams both lunged for a loose ball under the basket, and their heads collided so hard the sound echoed through the arena. Both players crumpled to the floor. For a few seconds, the game stopped. Fans held their breath. Williams stayed on the bench, shaken up. Hull, clutching her forehead, walked straight to the locker room. The swelling was immediate and not so visible the cameras couldn't look away. To the crowd, it felt like the breaking point. Indiana already had half the roster down. Losing Hull, their defensive engine and hustle player, seemed like the final straw. Most assumed her night was over. A head collision that nasty? No way she comes back. But minutes later, Hull reappeared, the swelling still obvious, and checked back in like nothing happened. And on her very first possession, she dove headfirst onto the floor, chasing another loose ball. The crowd erupted. What looked like disaster turned into the spark of the night. Hull's toughness didn't just lift her teammates, it redefined the energy in the building. She wasn't the leading scorer. She wasn't the superstar. But in that moment, she became the heartbeat of the Fever. And her grit set the stage for Aliyah Boston to take over. With the guards depleted and Clark watching from the sideline, Indiana had no choice but to pound the ball inside. And Aliyah Boston didn't just accept that responsibility, she embraced it. From the opening minutes, she planted herself deep in the paint and made it clear Seattle had no answer. She bullied her way to 27 points and 9 rebounds, scoring through contact, sealing defenders under the rim, and making every possession feel like a heavyweight battle. On defense, she matched up against Seattle's best and made life miserable for anyone who tried to challenge her. The numbers tell one story. The energy told another. Every rebound she ripped down, every putback she powered through, it felt like she was imposing her will on the game. Seattle kept doubling her, throwing bodies at her, but it didn't matter. Boston owned the interior like it was hers alone. And the ripple effect was massive. Her dominance forced Seattle to collapse inside, opening just enough space for the Fever's other scorers to shine. That's when Odyssey Sims and Kelsey Mitchell started cooking. While Boston was bruising Seattle in the paint, the backcourt torch was picked up by two players who refused to back down. Odyssey Sims, the late-season pickup that many thought was just a depth piece, played like she'd been waiting for this stage her entire career. She slashed through defenders, pushed the pace in transition, and knocked down a cold-blooded three from the logo that sent Gainbridge Fieldhouse into chaos. That shot wasn't just 3 points, it was a statement. This team wasn't afraid of anyone. Right beside her, Kelsey Mitchell delivered her trademark consistency. With Clark unavailable, the defense keyed in on Boston inside, but Mitchell made them pay every time they sagged off the perimeter. Quick triggers, timely threes, steady buckets, 21 points that kept Seattle from ever building momentum. Together, Sims and Mitchell formed the perfect balance around Boston's dominance. One attacking with fearless energy, the other stretching the floor with calm precision. And with that trio clicking, the short-handed Fever didn't just look competitive, they looked unstoppable. But this wasn't just about 3 players having big nights, it was about the entire team rewriting its identity in real time. By half-time, it was clear this wasn't a patchwork team just trying to survive. It was a new version of the Indiana Fever, one built on toughness, rebounding, and relentless energy. The numbers painted the picture. Indiana dominated the boards 42-21, a margin you almost never see at this level. Every missed shot seemed to end up in their hands, every 50-50th ball turned into a Fever possession. Defensively, they suffocated Seattle's guards. Penetration closed instantly, shooters were blanketed, and fast breaks were shut down, holding the Storm to just 3 transition points all night. The roles that once revolved around Clark's spacing suddenly looked sharper, hungrier, more connected. And the crowd felt it too. Instead of waiting for one superstar to save them, the fans rallied behind a team that was scrapping for every inch. What started as an injury-riddled lineup turned into a group imposing its will on a playoff-caliber opponent. This wasn't just hanging on until Caitlin Clark comes back. This was a blueprint for winning without her. And that's why the victory carried more weight than just one game in the standings. When the horn finally sounded, there was no confusion about what had just happened. The Fever hadn't just beaten Seattle, they dismantled them, 95-75. A 20-point statement win that silenced any doubts about whether this team could survive without Caitlin Clark. And in doing so, Indiana completed a season sweep of the Storm, 3-0. Think about that, a team limping into the night with injuries everywhere, a team many thought was hanging on by a thread, just took down one of the league's playoff staples in every single matchup this year. That's not luck. That's a pattern. That's proof. The win also came at the perfect time. Indiana had dropped 4 of their last 5, and their playoff grip was slipping. But by dominating Seattle, they jumped right back into 6th place, climbing ahead in a race so tight that one slip could mean elimination. Every possession mattered, every game was a must-win, and the Fever responded with the kind of performance that reshaped their identity. This wasn't about Clark's logo in the rafters. It wasn't about the cameras or the spotlight. It was about a team showing they had a backbone stronger than anyone realized. Lexie Hull's toughness gave them heart. Boston's power gave them control. Sims brought swagger, Mitchell brought steadiness, and together they formed something bigger than just a short-handed roster trying to survive. For the first time in weeks, Indiana didn't look fragile. They looked fearless. And when you add that to what's coming next, the picture gets even scarier. Because while the Fever were celebrating on the court, the real buzz hit right after. Caitlin Clark is close. Very close. For the first time since mid-July, she wasn't just doing solo workouts or light shooting, she was back in full-speed practice, running with teammates, testing her body under contact. That's the final hurdle before a return. It's been 16 long games without her, the longest absence of her career, and the weight of it showed in every box score. Without Clark, Indiana lost spacing, lost tempo, and lost that instant offensive spark she brings the second she crosses half court. Coaches talked about how her gravity alone changes defenses, how her shooting creates lanes for everyone else. And yet, here was the Fever proving they could win without all of that. Now imagine this version of Indiana, the team that just crushed Seattle, adding back the league's most electric scorer. A player who stretches defenses to the breaking point, who thrives in transition, and who feeds teammates in ways few guards in the world can. Boston becomes even more unstoppable when defenders can't double. Mitchell finds cleaner looks when defenses are stretched thin. Sims drives open wider gaps. And Hull's toughness sets the tone for a group that suddenly looks balanced on every level. Fans inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse saw the contrast firsthand. On the same night her logo was plastered across the arena, Clark sat courtside in a simple warm-up, cheering her teammates. It was almost symbolic, her brand towering overhead while the team on the floor proved they were more than just her supporting cast. And soon, those two forces, Clark's star power and the Fever's newfound grit, are going to merge. The schedule makes the timing even more dramatic. Indiana only has 6 games left in the regular season. Every one of them matters for playoff survival. And if Clark's return comes against the Sparks, it gives the Fever just enough runway to reintegrate her before the final stretch against some of the league's toughest opponents. So here's the question. If Indiana can dominate like this without Caitlin Clark, what happens when she's back at full strength? Are we looking at a team fighting just to make the playoffs, or a team ready to shock the entire league once the postseason begins? One thing is clear, the Fever are no longer just about waiting for one superstar. They've built an identity. And now, with Clark on the verge of rejoining the fight, that identity could evolve into something unstoppable. On a night built to celebrate Caitlin Clark's superstardom, it was her teammates who stole the spotlight. Lexie Hull's toughness, Aliyah Boston's dominance, Odyssey Sims' fearlessness, and Kelsey Mitchell's steady firepower turned what looked like a desperate situation into the Fever's most complete win of the season. The 95-75 blowout wasn't just about climbing the standings. It was about identity. Indiana showed they can play with grit, they can play with balance, and they can win even when the odds are stacked against them. That's not a fluke, that's a foundation. And now, with Clark on the verge of returning, the question shifts. If this is what the Fever can do short-handed, what happens when they're finally whole again? Could this be the turning point that transforms them from playoff hopefuls into a real contender? One thing's certain, this team is no longer waiting to be saved. They've already proven they can fight. If you're riding with the Fever, drop a comment saying I've got the Fever. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next, because the story of this team is just getting started.